And now I want to talk about a different subject before we get into a psalm. But because we're in this period of time of Passover, I wanted to talk about blood libel. And I'm wondering if people even know what blood libel is. Now I put up here the church needs to repent for blood libel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read something right now from Dr. Brown's book. If y'all are familiar with Dr. Michael Brown, and it's Our Hands Are Stained with Blood. This is a great educational resource. And we're going to learn a little bit here what blood libel is. If you will bear with me, this will not be boring. Again, this is by Michael Brown. Many strange tales have been told about the Jewish people, but none is stranger than the tale of the wandering Jew. According to the legend, as Jesus was on his way to get crucified, a Jewish man either struck or rebuffed the Son of God. As a result of his irreverence, the Lord condemned him to wander the earth until the second coming. Just a harmless legend, right? Not quite. First, countless thousands of people, especially in medieval Europe, actually believed the story. On numerous occasions, people reported meeting the wandering Jew in person. He was allegedly seen in 1223 by some pilgrims passing through Armenia. He supposedly made an appearance at a church in Germany in 1542, and according to local traditions, he was also sighted in Lubeck, 1603, Paris, 1604, Brussels in 1640, Leipzig in 1642, Munich in 1721, and London in 1818. The different names by which he has been known also include Asheres, which we're familiar with, Cartophilius, Botaduus, Botaduo, Votidio, Juan Espero den Dios, to just name a few. The anti-Semitic imagination is quite creative. A famous German book written about this wandering Jew, based on his supposed church visit in 1542, was translated or paraphrased into French, Danish, Estonian, and Italian. Why all this interest in such an absurd story? It's quite simple. It personified the church's viewpoint of the Jewish people as a whole. They were guilty as a nation of the crucifixion of Jesus, therefore they must continually wander around the world, destitute, homeless, persecuted, and always suffering a constant witness to the truth of the gospel message. The Jews are cursed. The Christians are blessed. That proves that Christianity is right. Now, the story of the wandering Jew should show us something Satan has known for a long time. If you tell ridiculous, impossible, hateful, venomous lies, if you tell them long enough and loud enough, especially if they are about the Jews, much of the church, along with the rest of the world, will believe you. Adolf Hitler observed that the great masses of the people more easily fall victim to a big lie than to a little one. Have we fallen to any big lies against the Jews? In 1348, 1349, the Black Death ravaged Europe, wiping out about 1/3 of Europe's entire population. Who was to blame? The Jews, of course. The fact that the Black Plague also killed multitudes of Jews didn't seem to bother anyone. Just how did the Jews execute such a wide-ranging plan of destruction? They secretly contaminated the wells with a poisonous mixture of spiders, lizards, and the hearts of Christians, mixed together with the sacred elements of the Lord's Supper. Hundreds of thousands of Christians believed this lie. As a result, thousands of Jews were butchered by angry mobs, and Jewish children under the age of 7 were then baptized and reared as Christians after their families were murdered. What was the proof? That the Jews were guilty? Some of them confessed to the crime under severe torture. Otherwise, no evidence existed. Then there's the charge of desecrating the host. In 1215, the Fourth Lateran Council accepted the doctrine of transubstantiation as official church dogma. Let me repeat that. Transubstantiation. This dogma asserted that the wafer used at the Mass was miraculously transformed into the body of Jesus. This belief in the doctrine of substantiation led to the torture and murder of thousands of Jews. Since Jesus is brought to life through the wafer, would not the Jews who had once crucified him wish to torture and kill him again? In 1243, Berlin's entire Jewish community was burned alive for allegedly torturing a wafer. The entire Berlin Jewish community. In Prague in 1389, the Jewish community was collectively accused of attacking a monk carrying a wafer. Large mobs of Christians surrounded the Jewish neighborhood and offered the Jews the choice of baptism or death. Refusing to be baptized, 3,000 Jews were murdered. In Berlin in 1510, 26 Jews were burned and 2 beheaded for reportedly desecrating the host. A charge of host desecration was reported as late as 1836 in Romania. Probably the most widespread anti-Jewish lie that has been told and believed throughout the ages has been the charge of ritual murder. The story is always the same. A group of Jews kidnap a Christian child, often before Easter, and torture him, kill him, often by crucifixion, and more times than not, drink the blood. The remaining blood is also put to good use. The Jews use it for making Passover matzah, unleavened bread. As expected, the only evidence for this crime is always the same. Jews, under torture, confess. This is a typical account. In April 26, 1343, a ritual murder accusation is raised against the Jews of Germersheim, Germany. Thereupon, the whole town's Jewish community is burned at the stake. God only knows how many Jews lost their lives because of this famous blood libel. The numbers are surely in the multiplied tens of thousands, and God only knows how many people. Muslims, atheists, and Christians believe this lie today. It has been circulated for over 2,000 years. In its earliest non-Christian form, it was spread by the Greeks and the Romans. It has made its way across the world. A ballad inspired by this Jewish blood libel was found in a book of folk songs in the Ozark Mountains of Arkansas, while a book published in the Birmingham, Alabama in 1962 gave credence to the charge of Jewish ritual murder. So again, that's just 3 pages, or 4. Thanks for bearing 1, 2, 3, 4. From a good book to read if you want to learn a whole lot more. That's just 4 pages. And if you think that was hoarded, there's a whole lot more. And so we just pray for revelation to come to everybody about what Passover is and what the church has done to the Jewish people over the centuries.